There just wasn't
What
anything
keeps you
difficult
playing
anymore.
then when you're in that when you're at that point?
Well, the first half of the run was a lot of fun.
Okay.
The first half of the run has always been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've just been hooked on this game. It's been very. It's got that, you know, just this part of the run, right, where you start and you get to pick your bonus, get them up the route.
Did you ever play Chandelar?
No, I don't know what that is.
It's like Magic the Gathering version of this game that came out in the 90s or something.
No, I've not. Instinctively, I'm looking at the 100 gold, but I guess it depends a bit on.
There's a store there too.
Do you ever take the max 12 health and remove the curse, or is that gonna make the? I guess that's a little bit too end game oriented. Like we're not gonna get enough power then to beat the first act bosses.
There are 4 ways to block in this game for silent. There's the strength reduction on Willie's and Piercing Whale. There's dexterity with footwork and block cards. There's intangible with wraith form, and then the 4th one is with your face, which is available to all classes and is not super desirable to do all the time. But like Defect, I know you haven't played much Defect, but Defect often has to face tank a while he sets up. And Ironclad can face block a lot because of having Reaper and having a sustained boss relic. And Silent, unless you get good relics for it, usually doesn't do that much, especially because Piercing Whale is so good on turn 1 and 2 and is a common. So even if you're just going with Piercing Whales, dodge and rolls, and footworks or something like that, you can get your block going in most fights in the game without taking almost any damage. So I don't think the max HP is as good on Silent, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, because we can avoid having to rest too often, right? And then the value goes a bit lost. Okay, true. Yeah, I mean, my instinct is usually just do the safe thing, but you know, like now that I have you here as my safety net, I can ask, like, all right, would it make sense to do the crazy thing? Still doesn't.
Also, like I said, I've been valuing removing cards a lot more highly on Ascension 20 now. You need to pack your deck with so many different things that do different things, and it's hard to do that if you're having to remove curses at stores instead of removing strikes.
That makes total sense. So when I look at this pack, I probably, you know, the way I've been playing Silent, I probably just skip, but I don't know whether we can afford that.
We're taking a dagger throw for sure. Sorry, I was reading.
Oh, no worries, man. It's your stream. Go for it.
I was reading chat. Are you actually asking us things, chat, or are you having immensely complicated game theory discussions amongst yourselves? I feel like I have a couple of viewers who tune into my channel to talk with other people in Twitch chat while I meme and dress up in a bird costume sometimes. Do you watch chess at all?
Sometimes just for like watching like Peter commentate and stuff, but I'm not that's more just like as a friend to friend thing, but I'm not very.
A friend?
I mean, I know
your friends?
Oh my god. Well, he comes on for runs like in between casts and stuff. Like if he has a day off on when he's casting a tournament, or sometimes when he's playing as well. Like Peter, like, shouldn't you be resting? It's like, hush, this is my free time.
I did not realize he came on your stream that often. That's super cool. Gotta get him to slay the Spire.
I have full. I'm not sure if it was there when I was streaming it. Let's see. I will let him know that Jorps is a big fan. Let's see. So that dagger throw, that's an easy pick because is that for what we've talked about to make sure that we can deal with Nob and the Lagavulin, or whatever his name is.
Typically, I'm aiming for like 2 damage commons or the equivalent around about in Act 1 on Silent, and if I remove a strike at a store, then I'm up to 3 pretty much. So like a Flying Knee, Dagger Throw, and a Dagger Spray or something. You need to be able to kill Lagavulin and Gremlin Knob before they kill you, basically. And you need to be able to deal 40 damage to one of the sentries if you want to get out of that fight without taking a ton of damage.
All right, cool. Yeah, so we're in the store, right? 227. So what I would do normally is I would buy the backflip and the well-laid plans, and then I'd hesitate removing a strike just because of what we talked about. But I guess you've taken a dagger throw, so it could make sense. There's obviously it's up to you to say what we're supposed to do, right?
Backflip gets really strong. Backflip always gets really strong at some point in the run, but when it gets strong exactly is variable and not right now, probably. It usually gets stronger once your deck gets more complicated and has 4 energy. So usually it's a card that I start to take very, very highly, probably after I stop caring about the Chosen +1 hallway fight in Act 2, around about there. But also just depends how good the card draw is. If I have particular cards which are very valuable, then drawing toward them is more important. If I have several cards which are about the same, then it doesn't matter as much. If I have like 2 dashes in my deck, for example, card draw is a lot less relevant. Whereas if I have 1 Piercing Whale, 1 Footwork, and 1 Fumes, those are all cards that I want to hit on turn 1 or something like that.
No, that makes total sense.
I'm thinking Will-A plan Skewer here, but I sort of hate it.
Is that then 2 out of 2 for now with the Skewer and the dagger?
Yeah, that would be our front-loaded damage for the act. Maybe I'll take a Dagger Spray so that we could kill stuff like the Slime Gang and Gremlin Gang, but those fights are pretty uncommon. There's a 1 out of 16 for each of them in hard hallway fights, I believe. Cool. Definitely buying Will-A plans for sure. I don't know that spending 81 gold for a Skewer is reasonable. It's really expensive.
So then you're hoping to just get like a knee from a fight here before we have to fight an elite?
Yeah, we do have to fight an elite soon though. I'm planning to go to that one for sure. I probably have to buy a Skewer.
Okay.
I wonder how much... There are a few things going on with the Fear Potion. One is we already have a potion, so there's a chance we have to discard one if we buy it. 2 is it's not very good against sentries. I think it's probably saving us 15 health on average against Gremlin Knob and Lagavulin though, or something like that though, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, somewhat cheap then, I guess, because it might be the difference between us being able to smith or not.
Yeah, exactly. It's like in 2 out of 3 of the elite fights, it's almost like buying an upgrade for 57 gold, which is it's a pretty good price for an upgrade if you get to target it. But we lose some of the value because sometimes we get a second potion in this next hallway fight. And we lose some of the value because of sentries. I'm going to buy it.
All right.
I watched almost the entirety of the Chess 24 coverage of the Carlson Caruana.
Yeah, that was I think, yeah, in between there, Peter was playing when they had a rest day on my stream. Keep clicking it, Jarvis. It'll get it. And there's the knee.
Well, okay, so flying knee actually works pretty well with Skewer anyway, to some extent. Skewer Will-A plans flying knee. Lets us set up big turns. I think we can take it and be okay.
Maybe have a question mark removing a strike. We're pretty happy then.
Yeah, definitely. I'm at this point happy with removing like 3 strikes.
Yep. All right, cool. All right. So how much do you spam this thing? 8, okay.
Usually I keep clicking until it's forcing me to give up value on a floor. generally I'm okay with giving up an upgrade for a relic. But if it's forcing me to skip an elite fight, I mean, I'm losing a relic at this point anyway, right? So it goes down in value a lot. Looking at Act 1, I'm always working out how I'm going to spend all of my health to get as strong as possible. And this deck is relatively okay at the elite fights. So it's pretty... It has good potions as well, and Guardian's the final boss. So it probably has to like rest once right now. And it doesn't have that much ability to fight a ton of elites. There's only 2 on our path.
So then spending the health would be quite expensive. Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes spending the health is a lot worse than others. It just depends on how many opportunities the act looks like it's giving you to turn health into resources.
So I usually smith my neutralize. Is that something you like doing as well, or is that not a priority for you?
It is a reasonable thing to do, which goes a little bit down in value on Ascension 20 because so much of your chance to win the run is tied up into cards like Crippling Cloud and Leg Sweep. And those already weaken. And also, because on Ascension 20, you need so much damage for hallway fights anyway. The Gremlin Knob, like, we just absolutely murdered Gremlin Knob, right? Gremlin Knob ends up being a less concerning enemy than on Ascension 15, probably, on Ascension 20. Because the other changes in the game are forcing you to front load your deck, get the Flying Knees and stuff into your deck. And Gremlin Knob just doesn't actually get buffed that much.
So it's not a problem to have him not being weakened for a turn, okay?
Yeah, and the other place that the Neutralize upgrade is really good is Lagavulin, and it is good against Lagavulin, but it's not good enough that it's like mandatory, I wouldn't say. It would be my next upgrade in this deck after the Skewer.
Okay. And that's just because the value on the Skewer is better there, I guess.
Yeah, the amount of the time that Skewer upgrade makes it so we skip an entire turn of a combat is pretty high. Also, the amount of value that we're getting out of it against sentries is pretty high.
Yeah, just being able to snipe one makes sense. Or almost snipe one.
And I like the calculated gamble there specifically because we have a well-laid plans in our deck, and getting it in play early is so valuable. I wouldn't always take calculated gamble there, but calculated gamble gets better and better the more scaling powers you have in your deck because it lets you get to them faster if you want to, and you don't have to play it if you don't want to. Or you can leave scaling powers in your hand and play the other cards and then calculated gamble if you need like to play a bunch of piercing whales on turn 1 or something.
Yeah, if you need that immediate, like, oh shit, 30 damage coming in or something.
I'm almost wondering if we want to take the super elite this act. Costs us a campfire. Probably not.
Is that something that you usually never do? The Act 1 super elite?
The problem is max HP Gremlin Knob or Lagavulin, mostly. The other ones are somewhat manageable. I think with Poison Potion, we're okay against max HP Lagavulin, and it can't be Gremlin Knob because we just fought Gremlin Knob, so in this spot, I wouldn't mind it. Also, we have a Guardian Act boss, and we're still pretty healthy. So, like, our health is... If we take 30 damage in that fight, I might still not rest. Especially with a Ghost in a Jar, Guardian's just not very scary.
Alright.
And a well-laid plan, so we can have block on the right turns. We need to start putting block cards in the deck now, though. This is how I get asked a decent amount of the time by people who are newer to the game how deck size works and how large your deck should be. And on Ascension 20, because you are putting damage cards in your deck in Act 1, your deck ends up just getting big pretty quick, because after you put damage cards in your deck, you suddenly have to put block cards in your deck. I know I've mentioned that like 3 times already just in the Skype call.
No, all good, all good.
Yes.
I guess... So we can't really set up the knee as well, right? Because it's... it will break the shield anyway.
It deals 8. Could do. Oh yeah, we just start now, I guess.
Yeah. So would you knee skewer or just skewer?
Just skewer because we know our 5-card hand next turn is only 3 energy anyway. It's a
Yeah,
perfect.
okay.
It's a perfect
Makes
5-card
sense.
hand. Lagaboom's
Yep,
gonna be
yep.
weakened for both attacks, and we get the full block. And
That's perfect. Yep.
was in motion for this.
I can see that skewer being so good already. It's crazy. I've never picked it.
The cards like that are very good for decks which need to be able to turn energy into a certain thing and don't have a bunch of other cards that lets them do it. So silent decks early on don't have like Bash, which is Ironclad's card to turn energy into damage efficiently. So something like Skewer can be really good early. On the other hand, like Whirlwind on Ironclad, often Ironclad already has a bunch of other ways to turn energy into damage, depending on what cards you've put in. So sometimes Whirlwind isn't very exciting on Ironclad.
Yeah, it's more like an instinctive thing that gets put into words then. Because I'm seeing the skewer being good and then you're explaining why. So that's nice. Yeah, that is a much cleaner fight than many of my Lagaboons. But I guess we drew pretty well, right? Because we blocked
The
clean,
neutralize
double
was pretty lucky,
neutralize.
yeah.
That was pretty nice. Okay. Alright, so my chat has told me that Wraith Form is one of like the spiciest cards for Silent, and that can very well be, but I wouldn't know how to use it because right now I just look at it like, if whenever I cast this I can't block anymore, so I kind of need to use it at the very end of the fight.
I will teach you.
Teach me the ways.
Also, what am I trying to say? Oh, the more damage you have in your deck, the sooner the end of the fight is. So if you are playing a deck with a Skewer Plus in it,
we're less afraid of removing our dexterity. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Also, having a Skewer Plus in your deck means that being able to spend your energy on damage instead of block for a turn has value to you. Whereas if we couldn't draw cards that let us spend 4 energy on dealing damage anyway, we were going to just deal like a couple of strikes worth of damage and draw some backflips, being intangible is nowhere near as valuable.
And it'd be very awkward because you could just see the clock ticking. Yeah. Okay. So I love Blur, but that's for my my ideal decks that I can't build on Ascension 20, right? Like the decks where I could just go blur, 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 and I never run out of block. But that doesn't happen here. So
it can happen.
You mentioned the Dagger Spray earlier. Do we want that here?
I think we're through the part where we care about it. We have one more hard hallway fight. Act 2. Dagger Spray is good. Dagger Spray is like, the cards you want are Thousand Cuts, Noxious Fumes, Crippling Cloud. Those are the Dagger Sprays which don't suck. Dagger Spray is the Dagger Spray that does suck. So sometimes you have to take it because you need that sort of effect, but you want the other ones that... The big thing that they do, Crippling Cloud, Noxious Fumes, Thousand Cuts, is that they get out of your deck after you play them and have lasting damage. So Dagger Spray is a way to deal AoE if you have like a 15-card deck and you keep drawing it and playing it over and over again. Those other 3 cards are ways to deal AoE with like a 30-card deck where you draw them once, play them, have an AoE source forever, and then also the next time through your deck you don't need to worry about drawing and playing that card again. You can thin your deck down to the cards that you actually need for later in the fight. I think Blur's okay.
Okay, but definitely don't, I definitely don't want to influence you too much, right? I'm not saying I don't. But sometimes I have this as well. If I play together with someone, I'm teaching them the game, they're like, oh, why not this? And I'm like, you know what? That sounds kind of okay, but then deep down, you know, yeah, that was not the pick, you know. So
no, Blur's a lot better with well-laid plans. It's pretty good against Guardian. I think it'll be okay.
Good.
I think that was a really difficult pick, though. Hashtag fight. Skewer might be my favorite silent card. Not like I think it's really good, but I think that the way that you get to play a deck with Skewer in it is just really interesting. Especially if you get like a pen nib and well-laid plans.
I could see the... I just see that your play is so much cleaner, smoother. Right? I see like the... Oh, of course, you know, because I see the mugger and instinctively I'm like, oh, can I afford to block? Can I do this? But you're like, oh yeah, of course, we have well-laid plans. I'm gonna hold the Skewer, it's 40 damage next turn, easy. So it's good to see that.
I have played a lot of games of Slay the Spire.
Yeah, obviously, right? Obviously, but it's cool. It's cool to see. Like it makes me want to play a bit more now, so it's nice.
I think this upgrade's really interesting.
So we're fighting Guardian, right?
Yeah, we don't have a boss fight here, really. That's not going to be too bad.
Okay. I guess purely when it comes to the Guardian, I could think about maybe the Blur, but normally I think it's for me, right? I'm saying for me, well-laid plans. I think normally I would just not care and take that one. But yeah,
well-laid plans.
Show me what you would normally do.
Well-laid plans is really interesting. Do you take a second well-laid plans if you're offered one?
Usually yes. Yeah.
Okay. Taking the most difficult turns in the game on Ascension 20 with Act 4 are Act 2 and 3 of the Heart fight and the Act 4 Elite fight. And especially on turn 2 of the Act 4 Elite fight and on turn 2 and 3 of the Heart fight, your deck has statuses in it and is going to draw a worse hand. So getting to play well-laid plans on turn 1 in those fights is just ridiculously valuable. It's like unreasonably valuable to be able to do that. On the other hand, like being able to retain 4 cards just isn't that much better than being able to retain 2. And right now, I don't think the retaining 2 cards is much better than retaining 1 for our deck, just with how everything lines up.
For me, it would be more like, oh, we're feeling comfortable, I'll just pick the one that I feel has most value later on. But that's not the correct way of thinking about it, right? We want to make the deck as strong as we can. So what would you like then?
I think I like Dagger Throw. I think I want the deck to be slightly better at killing elites. The Dagger Throw upgrades got some pretty relevant breakpoints on it. 12 damage is enough to kill one of the gremlins on Gremlin Leader. And it's going to get us a little bit closer to being able to kill slavers on like turn 2, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds, I mean, it sounds logical, so let's do it.
If we want a damage upgrade, we want to upgrade the damage card that we're actually going to play, and we may not bother playing strikes when we draw them, so... Now what do I do? This? Oh, this got hard. Wow.
Yeah. So next turn he attacks, right? Or...
Yeah, I think that if we go strike, blur.
And then hold the gamble. That's fine, right?
We almost always find Skewer plus this turn and force the transform. And if we don't, we have neutralize, survivor, defend or something. Seems fine.
Yeah.
Oh, I just went to neutralize first. Oops.
Yeah, that's like 4 less, I guess. So it's fine. So it's not Skewer, right? Alright.
What do you think it means if someone says, "Have I heard about Jeremiah wanting to play you 1v1?" This isn't a PvP game. What does that mean? Are you like a Twitch chat whisperer? Do you tend to understand what people are saying when they ask
in
you
my
stuff?
own chats, usually yes, but this one I have no idea.
He just called you weird, Twitch chat.
They were on my side for a little bit.
Yeah.
Troops. Yeah, I still play Arena. Who has that? Constantine.
Yeah, they're pretty weird. There's something to that. We can go Blur, Survivor, Defend. I think the Well-Laid Plans upgrade would have been really good in the site. Like, unreasonably good.
But we knew that we were okay in the fight, right? So,
yeah, we should be fine.
Like, we picked for Act 2, so it's probably fine.
I'm just surprised by how many turns I'm wishing I could hold onto multiple cards. Splash.
So what's this archetype thing that chat's been poking about?
Oh, I don't like describing things as archetypes. It's a meme.
In Spire. Right.
I'm okay with it in Magic the Gathering-ish.
I do have to say that when I'm looking at Spire, I don't really go like, oh, this is a control deck, this is a mid-range deck, right? So I don't have that instinct here.
There's a 12-month history of me trying to explain to people why they can take cards other than Noxious Fumes in their poison deck. Like, people coming to the channel and just wanting to draft like backflips and Noxious Fumes, and then they find a guide that's like, this is how you build a deck that is only backflips and Noxious Fumes. And it
That's
takes
pretty much what I've been playing, yeah.
Well, it takes a while to work out how to do more than that, but once you do, you realize that the game is a lot better than you thought it was. That is my struggle with archetypes. Is that... Oh, they're doing the copy pasta for you. I see. Yeah, they're just welcoming you. The channel. It's their way of being nice.
Aw, thank you guys. So would it be more reasonable to say that instead of, you're looking for like a specific archetype, or you're trying to build a poison deck or this or that, you're basing, well, first of all, there's the what am I up against, right? And you want to build a deck that can beat that, but you're more looking at, okay, I want the deck to be able to do this, that, and what, like, let's say, like, I want the deck to be able to do enough blocking, enough damage, I needed scaling. You're more looking at that and you're checking those boxes rather than saying, okay, I want a poison deck, I want a shiv deck, I want a, whatever it is that people would make as an archetype.
Yeah, and the compartments in Slay the Spire, the like block cards, for example, don't have many synergies with the attack cards. And they're separate. They're very, very separate. In Hearthstone, if you build an aggro deck, it's obvious which sort of supporting spells you'd want in the aggro deck to some extent, and it's obvious that you want the aggressive creatures. But in Slay the Spire, just with how the game works, it's not quite the same. Like, maybe your Perfected Strike Ironclad deck really wants Rage, and other Ironclad decks don't. Maybe your Barricade deck wants Entrench. But the game is so messy, and you have to play with the deck on multiple different floors where there are different cards and different relics available to it over the course of a run. It's not like you finish building it and then play with it 12 times or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you just don't end up having to build into those synergies anywhere near as much, or wanting to, for that matter. We're taking another Wraith form. We can now be invincible for 7 turns.
Looking forward to it. All right. I was kind of thinking we'd take that, by the way. So, how bad is the strength? Like, I usually don't know. I usually pick it and it's okay-ish, but I can imagine on Ascension 20 it might not be okay anymore.
There's just the heart with the times 15 attack, but for Silent specifically, Piercing Wail is a common, and we already have 2 Wraith forms, so I don't think that the strength is that big a deal. They recently nerfed Book of Stabbing too. Well, there are the birds at the start of Act 2 who might be... actually are probably really difficult for our deck. Dagger Spray would be a good card to have against them. But other than that, it's pretty much fine.
So that's sufficient for you to be okay with it?
Yeah, it used to give enemies 2 strength at the start of combats. It was a couple of months ago that it got turned into 1.